Are we going? Pending. There we go. Awesome. Okay, we are recording. All right. Well, everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. Haven and I are excited to kind of get started with this whole class. My name is Sammy Boomgarden. I'm the Mental Health Promotion Coordinator over at the Health Education Resource Center. And I am in my second year of the clinical psychology program here at Eastern. Haven, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Haven Whitley, and I'm one of the health promotion coordinators over at the Health Education Resource Center as well. I do a lot of presentations on sexual health, alcohol use, drug use, all things of that nature. I am also in my master's program right now too, and looking forward to graduating in July.
Awesome. Before we get into a couple details about what this class is going to look like, I would love to get an opportunity to hear from you all. If you can just give me or give us your name, year in school, and your major, that pretty typical introductory information. Cynthia, would you get us started, please?
My name is Cynthia Cometti, and I'm a senior, and I am in health communications.
Awesome, thanks. Emily, you're next on the screen.
I'm Emily Bernard. I'm also a senior. I'm in the community health program, and I'm an intern at the HERC.
Great. And then Paul, you're next for me. Okay, Monique, you want to go ahead? Oh, never mind. Paul got it.
My name is Paul Abraham. I'm a senior, and I'm a health administration major.
All right, Monique, you want to wrap us up?
My name is Monique Mays, and I am a senior, and I am a health promotion community health major.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. So to tell you a little bit about this program, we're going to be talking about alcohol use and discussing whether change might be a good idea. This program is going to offer skills and techniques to help you make changes in your alcohol use and continue those gains into the future. You know, we recognize that you're here because it's mandated. However, we're hoping that you can still find some information from this program about behavior changes that you might want to find in your life, whether or not that's related to alcohol use. Part of requirements for completing this class, there's a workbook that you all should have. If you don't, let us know. We'll make sure you get access to that. And that will be a part of this class. We're going to have some homework assignments in there. So make sure you hold on to that, as well as hold on to it past the class, because there's some great information in there that you can use in your future. There'll be a few other requirements, a few surveys that you'll need to fill out, but we will communicate that to you clearly so that you know what you need to finish in order to successfully complete this class. Within this class, we are going to explore a few different things. We're going to look at your reasons for using alcohol, any personal triggers or cravings, what those might look like for you, any situations where there's a higher risk for alcohol use. We're going to look at strategies for changing alcohol use and for keeping you safe as well. And then finally talk about relapse prevention. So ways to maintain any changes that you form in this program that are important to you. We're going to talk about how you can keep those going throughout the rest of your life. And with that being said, Haven is going to start us off with a little bit of education.
All right. So I am going to just talk about education. What are the benefits of knowing alcohol, a standard drink size, what alcohol does to your body, just some basic information to start off this program, this class. So what is alcohol? Obviously, you guys all know what it is, but it's really known for its sedative and relaxing properties that it usually gives to our bodies. It also is known for giving people like a sense of well-being at times. But alcohol is actually a depressant, meaning that it slows down your brain activity, resulting in slurred speech, unsteady movements, slow reaction times, disturbed perceptions, and things of that nature. So what alcohol does in your brain, it triggers the dopamine, which is like a neurotransmitter in your brain that associates pleasure and satisfaction. So it just triggers those neurotransmitters, and it's making somebody tend to like drink more once you have your first drink. And again, just makes people feel like they're a little bit more satisfied after having those drinks. So alcohol is one of the most commonly misused addictive substances. It is actually processed in your liver where the enzymes help to break down the ethanol, which is the alcohol that goes through your bloodstream. The effects of alcohol with drinking occur when the ethanol actually hits the bloodstream and then passes through the membranes of your organs, your brain, your heart, and a lot of other organs. So I'm going to bring up this slide real quick just to show things a little easier. So when this comes up, it's going to be mainly about, let's see. Okay, so like BAC levels, what all alcohol affects per person and individually, and then we're also going to get into what standard drink sizes are, and it's just a little bit easier to understand whenever you have some visuals, I think. So BAC is blood alcohol concentration, and that is the percentage of alcohol, which is ethanol, that is actually in your bloodstream. So the legal limit in Illinois is going to be 0.08. So like whenever you're driving, if you ever get pulled over and you're over that legal limit, this is how they get that limit, the percentage of the ethanol that is in your bloodstream. So for an example, like a BAC of 0.10% means that in that individual's blood supply, it contains part of a 1,000th part of your blood. So 0.10 is the percent that's going to be in your body. So that's just a little example. And then below that, I have some pictures of what actually affects your individual BAC levels. So the number of standard drinks that you consume is obviously going to affect your BAC levels. Someone's personal body weight, your biological sex, different medications that you're on can affect your BAC levels as well. Some medications say, don't drink and take this medication. So just paying attention to things like that. And then, of course, your food consumption prior to drinking is going to affect it as well, which we always try to remind people to eat before you go out and drink, because the more food that's in your stomach or in your body before you're consuming is going to help slow down, but consuming after drinking isn't necessarily going to help soak up because it's already in your bloodstream. And then on this next slide, I just have a couple pictures of standard drink sizes. So what's recommended is 1 standard drink, which I have pictured, per hour. And then, of course, we also like to say to have a drink of water or a glass of water as well with that standard drink in the hour. That's going to help you to keep the BAC levels down and hopefully stay under that legal limit, especially if you are planning to drive or anything like that. So standard drink sizes for beer, it's going to be 12 ounces. So it can be like a can or bottle. Usually it's going to be 12 ounces, depending the type of beer. Usually beer is about 4.5 to 5%. So like your Busch Lights, Miller Lights, Coors, all of your domestic beers are going to be around 5%. And then same thing with like White Claws. So 1 can is going to be around 5%, or seltzers are usually around 4 to 5%. And then a shot of alcohol is going to be 1.5 ounces, is equivalent to 1 shot, which is usually equivalent to about 40% of alcohol. And then for wine, as you can see, the glass is not filled all the way up, but 1 glass is going to be about 5 ounces, which is usually about half of a glass. Wine can range, of course, in all different percentages, but the average bottle is going to be around 12% of alcohol. So alcohol by volume is the amount of like the percentages and the proofs. So the example that I have is going to be listed on the slide is 40% of alcohol by volume in a shot. So if you multiply that by 2, whatever that percentage, whether it's 40, 50, if you multiply that number by 2, that's how you get your alcohol proof. So if you ever see those numbers on the bottom and you're wondering how to get those, so you just multiply the percentage by the proof, and that's how you get your alcohol by volume. I think that's it for that one. So let me unshare my screen.
I have a question, Ms. Havey.
Yeah.
What is the proof? Like, what does that mean?
The proof of alcohol is how much ethanol is in the alcohol. So like the example that I gave before about like the 0.10, like that's just how much of the ethanol, which is the alcohol, is in that bottle, but it's per the standard drink size. So it is a little confusing, but however much that standard drink size is that's on the bottle, it says proof is how much is in that one. It's not what that's in the whole bottle, but it's just going to be the ethanol, so it's the alcohol.
Okay.
Does that answer a little better?
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
So next is going to be, I know I kind of mentioned like adding in medications and how that can mess with your BAC levels and everything. But whenever it comes to like bringing in drugs, such as marijuana, antibiotics, any other like opioids of some sort, those are all also going to affect your body a substantial amount, especially when mixing that in with alcohol. So like mentioned before, whenever alcohol enters your body, it's going to travel through your bloodstream. So whenever you take drugs and mix that together, it's all going to process in your liver, causing your metabolism to, obviously, and all of those enzymes to process it differently, pending what you're bringing into the picture with it. So just a couple of examples are going to be if you're adding antibiotics in with alcohol, you could possibly become nauseous, vomiting, migraines, rapid heart rates. Whenever you bring in antidepressants with this depressant of alcohol, it can cause agitation, diarrhea, high blood pressure, pending the antidepressants that they are. And then whenever you're bringing in marijuana or cannabis, it can also cause more or added agitation, paranoia, sweating, dizziness. And then with opioids, it's going to also cause nausea, dehydration, changes in blood pressure, or even an irregular heartbeat. So just definitely be careful that if you are, taking any medications or mixing in drugs with this alcohol, that you are aware of what could potentially happen, and just to be really cautious. Obviously, we say not to do it, but sometimes it happens. So just be really cautious whenever you're doing things like that. And I think that's it for me, Sammy.
Awesome. All right. Does anyone have any questions before we go to the next portion? Awesome. That being said, if you have any, you can always unmute and ask them, or you can pop them in the chat. We'll pay attention to that as well, wherever you're comfortable. So next, we're going to start a little bit talking about your alcohol use and what that looks like for you, and what changing it might look like. And if that's something that's important to you, we'll give you those strategies. Because we're not here to tell you what to do in regards to alcohol. That's not our job. We're just here to help you better understand what influences your decision and teach you skills to help you make better choices. There are 3 basic steps to changing any behavior, but in particular for this class, your alcohol use. We have to think about behavior, prepare for change by deciding what we want that change to be and how we can do it, and then actually acting on your plans. So implementing that change. So we're going to start with thinking about why you use alcohol. What are those reasons? And why you might want to stop or change your use. We know that you're mandated to be here, and that's probably playing a pretty big role in any decisions that you make. And even if this is your main motivation, we really want to encourage you to look at this as an opportunity to explore potential choices. We can't make you change, but give this program a shot, and you might notice some positive changes in your life. So to get started with thinking about your alcohol use, I want you to go into your workbook. I believe you all have a copy of that. Let me know if you don't, and we'll get that over to you. And we're going to look at pages. Make sure I tell you the right pages. Pages 8 and 9. you should see tables that are about continuing use and changing use. When you're looking at those 2 pages, we see pros and cons. We're going to spend some time looking in these tables. And I do want to say one thing that I absolutely encourage, but it is not mandated, is reading through the workbook. There's definitely helpful information in here beyond just alcohol use, particularly when we get later in the workbook and we're talking about things like your sleep and physical activity and awesome stuff like that. So know that this is a resource for you outside of class as well. But that being said, let's get into this activity. So you're going to come up with some pros and some cons initially for continuing your alcohol use where it's at. Why are reasons that you'd want to maintain the behavior that you're engaged in now? And what are some cons to doing that? What might be some negative side effects? You can see some examples up in that pros and cons. We've got relaxation as a pro, and then guilty over feeling lazy as a con. And it's really that simple at this point. If you finish, I want you to go ahead and in that column that you can see the numbers where it's like /10, I want you to rate how important that pro or con is to you. We can see that in the example as well. So relaxation has a score of 7 out of 10. So that's fairly important to this person. But guilt over feeling lazy is 9 out of 10. So that's definitely something that's more significant to them. So I want you to go ahead and come up with those pros and cons just for this first table and rate them out of 10. Any questions before you get started? All right, have at it. I'll check in like, I don't know, 3 minutes. Yeah, about 3 minutes. I will be asking you to share at least one thing from each column. So as you're working, think about which part of that you'd be willing to share with everyone here. All right. I see a few faces looking. Do we all have at least some pros and cons written down? Awesome. Does anyone want to get us started? Just share one pro and one con that you've written.
I can go.
Yeah, y'all can just unmute yourselves and go. You're good whenever you're ready.
Okay. For the first pro, I put it can make it easier to socialize. And I rated that a 5 out of 10. And for a con, I said it makes me feel gross. Like right afterwards and the next day. And that's a 10 out of 10 because I don't like that. But
Absolutely. Yeah, there can definitely be some uncomfortability when we drink. Yeah, thanks for sharing, Cynthia.
I also had meeting people as a 7 out of 10, but my most important one was just the fun of it. Really, it's kind of simple, but I rated that 8 out of 10. And then I think my most significant, or both of my two most significant cons were, of course, trouble, things like this. And that was a 9 out of 10, or things worse than this. And the hangover and being so sick.
Yeah, definitely. We're already hearing some similarities between these lists. Thanks for sharing, Paul.
So, pro for me is that it makes me feel more relaxed and sociable in gatherings. And I rated that a 6 out of 10. But then not remembering things and feeling that sickness afterwards, that's a 10 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Monique.
Okay, so for one of my pros, I also had like what you guys had, but I guess if I had to pick one, like that y'all didn't have, I guess relieving stress. Like people talk about like, oh, that glass of wine after work. Like I guess I don't know. I probably picked that up from my grandma, but I mean I don't do that, but that's where I've heard that. But
Yeah.
I guess a con would be the risk of addiction. Like my mom was an alcoholic, so that worries me. Like since that runs in the family, I don't want to take that risk of becoming addicted myself and going down that road. So,
Yeah.
sorry, just got a little personal.
I do apologize. Thank you for being willing to share so early. And yeah, absolutely. That's a risk that we run. And hopefully we'll be able to offer some great strategies for you and everyone else going forward. So now that you've talked kind of about the continuing use, I want you to think about changing use. And that's that next column. So if you were to either completely cut out drinking from your life, or if you were to instead choose to maybe reduce the amount that you're drinking or have better risk management strategies in place, what would be some pros and cons of changing your use? I want you to go ahead and do that same exact thing on that second table. And again, I'll give you like 3-ish minutes. And then once you've finished that, if you haven't already, add up all of your numbers and put them in that total column. If you have an uneven, like a different number of pros and cons, find the average. Let me know if you have questions about that as well. Does anyone need any more time? Okay. Anyone willing to get us started with sharing, again, just a pro and a con like we just did?
I can start this time since I went last
Go
time.
for it.
Okay, so I think my biggest pro would be like the healthier lifestyle and no hangovers. Like I would definitely be feeling more on top of it like by avoiding alcohol. And I guess the cons are mostly like social aspects. Like if I go to a party and I'm like, oh no, I'm not drinking, like what are people gonna think? What are people gonna say? So just like the uncertainty of what people are gonna think or or what they would say. So
Absolutely.
I guess I rated the healthier lifestyles a 10, but others' opinions is probably like a 6. I don't care that much. Okay, someone else can go.
Thanks, Emily. Whoever, just go ahead.
I'll do it. So my pro was not getting sick or having like alcohol poisoning. And then I rated that like an 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
And then my con was being less engaged or not socializing as much. I will be more reserved than usual. And I rated that a 5 out of 10.
All right. Thank you, Monique. Paul, you want to go ahead? You've been trying to go. You are muted.
Every time, I'm sorry.
Yep.
I put down a couple pros, mostly surrounding like more money and more time. There was a lot of I just don't have much money, and it would be nice to not spend on things like that. And most of my cons revolved around social activity or ways to meet people too. Not only not drinking at those places, but I might not attend them if I don't plan on drinking if I want to. So less chance to meet people.
Yeah. Okay. Absolutely. Cynthia, you want to wrap us up?
So for my pros, I put saving money and being overall healthier, which I rated both 10 out of 10. And then for my con, I put you feel a social pressure to drink when you're going out, which I just rated a 2 out of 10 because it doesn't matter what people think. But
yeah, but that pressure is still absolutely real, and I think we're hearing that from a lot of you guys. So, yeah, Emily, did you have something to add?
I was gonna say I definitely noticed that I scored all of the pros a lot higher than the cons. Like what I was really struggling to come up with cons of like quitting alcohol. Like you hear like so many benefits of it. So like yeah, that was just hard. So I think it was mostly like social aspects that affect most of us. Like we don't want to be left out. We don't want to be the oddball. Nobody likes that. But yeah, thanks guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely think that seems to be a shared experience amongst you guys and other college students as well. You're definitely not alone in that. And I want you, well, we'll do this in the next activity, but keep these easily to find, because when we wrap everything up, we're going to be kind of revisiting those pros and how they look different in the two different tables. So I will end there and go ahead and turn it over to Haven.
All right. So this next section is mainly about legal consequences through like the city of Charleston, ordinances, violations, and then also university policies. If you do something, what happens, that kind of thing. Really brief. I'm going to bring out my PowerPoint again because there's a lot of numbers here and it's just easier if you can see them. All right, so these are going to be the local ordinances and violations. If you, I don't know if everybody knows this or not, but if you get in trouble for anything through the city of Charleston, they are able to, depending on how you react and handle the situation, they are able to give you ordinances and violations through the city, but they're also able to contact Eastern contacts, and then Eastern is also able to give you fines, violations, classes, everything like that. So just something to keep in mind, especially if you are ever like in that situation with law enforcement. Try to be on your best behavior, and just work around everything with them. So hopefully you don't have to do double duty, but sometimes that is what happens. So for some violations, we have purchase or acceptance of alcohol by a minor. It's going to be around $485 plus a diversion class. With these diversion classes, they're usually on Saturday mornings at like 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. and nobody wants to be there teaching them or being there. So definitely just try to stay out of trouble and not get in one of those classes. But with minor possession or consumption of alcohol, getting caught that way is going to be around $485 a diversion class. Unlawful use or possession of a false or fake ID, same thing, $485 in a diversion class. And then misrepresentation of a minor, $485 in a diversion class. Public possession of alcohol, so if you get caught walking down the street with a bottle or anything, it's going to be $235. And then obscene conduct, which is also known as public urination, is going to be around $235. And then just simply getting caught with like a large amount of party trash in your yard or on the streets outside your house or things like that, you can also get a fine for that, especially if you're on or off campus. So with this one, this is university policy. If you're under the age of 21, any hard alcohol, anything over 7% is obviously prohibited. And if you're over 21, anything over 7% of alcohol is prohibited on campus. But if you're if you're over 21 living on campus and you have like a can of beer or something, I'm not sure the exact specifics, but this is just an example. If you have a can or two of beer and that's under 7%, so you have like Busch Light and it's 5%, and you are over 21, you won't get in trouble for that since it is legal for you to be drinking. But if it's over 7%, then you will get in trouble for that. So just some things to be cautious of. On-campus housing protocol for oh my gosh, I cannot talk. How can I say this? I say this every week and I can't talk. You know what I'm trying to say? Thanks. I say this every week. I don't know what's going on with me. Okay, so if you get in trouble for that, you are obviously going to have to take one of these classes, especially if you are a minor. And they're more than likely going to take you to the hospital as well. So just making sure that you're staying, aware of what's going on, not getting to that limit, and just, being, staying to that standard drink is going to be important for this. But again, if you have a first offense on university campus, you're going to have to take the basic crawl class, which is the class before this one. It's just 1 hour, one time, and you're going to have to pay a $50 fine. That's more than likely, like if you do get caught with alcohol on campus, like in your dorm room or something. And then the second offense is going to be having to take this class and then also disciplinary action. So if you're under 21 and you get caught more than 2 times, they do actually notify your parents, and pending the situation, they might notify them the first time if it was really bad where you had to like be rushed to the hospital or anything like that. So another reminder with this class is that you do have to be here every week for 4 weeks. And if you don't show up one day and you don't reschedule that class with us, that is actually going to result in you having to retake the class and repaying the fine. So it's really important that you show up every session, do the work, participate with us, and then it should be a breeze after that. But that's pretty much all I had, Sammy.
Awesome. Great. Then let's wrap up with our final activity. So I would love for you all to share, if we're looking at those pros and cons, that table that we filled out, those totals, how do they compare? Let's just look at the pros. We'll kind of ignore the cons for a minute. But if we just look at the pros, how does it compare between the two tables of continuing use and changing use? Which one is higher?
My pros on the continuing use was a lot lower than the cons, but in the changing use, the pros were a lot higher than the cons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Exactly. I had the same situation.
Oh. Yeah. Did it look different for anyone? I see a lot of head nods. Is that what everyone's kind of looked like?
I mean, okay, so mine, like, I only did 3 on each for the changing use, but I did 5 on each for the continuing use. But when I look at the totals, like, for my total on continuing use, for all 6, it was 30. And on my changing use pros, the total for just 3 was 28. So you can tell it definitely would have been higher if I had filled out the whole chart, but like everyone else, it's like lower on the continuing use and higher on the changing use.
Absolutely. Yeah, and the math gets a little complicated when we don't have the same numbers. So I do think, yeah, that it's definitely a pretty high value there. So with keeping that in mind and kind of starting to look forward and thinking about what your goals might be to change your alcohol use, I want us to turn to page 10. So it's just that next page. You can see there's a blank and it says quit or change date. I want you to cross out that date and put goal, because goal is better for what we're doing here. And I want you to think about what that might look like. What might you want to change in your alcohol use at this point? I want you to write that down. And then we'll share. So take a minute, write that down. All right. Anyone willing to get us started with sharing?
I can go. I said, for my goal, I said, if I drink alcohol, I don't want to overconsume it, and I don't want to order sugary drinks because that makes you feel worse.
Yeah, absolutely.
My goal will be to lower my use in general, as well as possibly even quit, especially when going out with like a group of people. Like all of us don't need to be drunk. One of us can be fine sober. So possibly just stop drinking at all would be my best bet.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. We're definitely going to have some strategies for that you can learn through this class for both of you. Emily,
So,
go ahead.
Okay, so I don't drink a lot already because I'm pretty like sensitive to alcohol. I like tend to throw up whenever I drink. So limiting myself, like if I do choose to drink, like limiting myself to 1 to 2 drinks would be perfectly okay with me.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't do that now though. So we'll work on that.
Okay.
I also said I wanted to limit myself to just a few drinks when I'm drinking, and then to also be more comfortable in places where people are drinking, like not drinking, places where people are drinking, at a party or something like that.
Yeah, that can absolutely be difficult. And I think you all have really great, hopefully they sound like achievable goals with the strategies that we're going to talk about. And we'll definitely keep those in mind as we're discussing different strategies for change. And we'll see, maybe those goals will change as we go through this class. Maybe they won't, but we'll definitely revisit them at the end and see where you're at. In order to track progress towards that goal, a part of this class is keeping a journal. This journal is for your use. I'll send it out to you after this class, but we aren't going to be looking at it or checking it we will be asking you to share some experiences from it. So you do want to have stuff written down in there. However, it does track your alcohol use, and we know that there can be some concern about getting in trouble again through this class. And I just want to reiterate, that's not what we're here for. We're not here to try and get you in trouble. So you can be honest in tracking your use. And even then, Haven and I aren't going to see these journals. We're not like checking them every time you walk in. But we'll know if you haven't filled it out because you won't have anything to share the next class. They're pretty simple. It's just tracking, the situation you were in, any thoughts you experienced, any feelings that happened, and then tracking how much you did consume, how much alcohol you drank, and then any consequences due to that. They can be fairly simple. It's just a table. We love tables in this class. And this is really going to help us see how your alcohol use changes throughout the course of just these 4 weeks. And it helps you become more aware of what you're consuming and putting into your body and how we might be able to change that. Are there any questions about the journal at this point? Cool. If you have any, you can always email us. And with that, Haven, I don't think there's anything else, right?
Nope, that's it.
Awesome. Great. Well, thank you all for joining us today. And we will see you virtually here, same time, same place next week.
All right.